Hello and welcome to the first video of our final weapon discipline, and that is unarmed stage combat. Now, unarmed is a little bit different. We don't have any weapons, and as a result, it's very difficult for you to try and do these exercises by yourself. So for these video lessons and exercises, you're going to need a partner. Now, you can use anybody. Any family member will do. You generally want somebody who is not a small child, though, so somebody approximately your age or older. It doesn't matter if they're shorter than you, taller than you, although it can be a little difficult to do some of these if you're working with somebody who is several feet taller than you. So for these exercises, I've got my son Dante right here, and we're going to walk through these various videos and exercises with you. And when you submit your video assignments, you will need to be performing these with a partner. Okay, so we're going to get started with a very simple concept, but one that can be very painful and dangerous if done incorrectly, and that is falling, or rather making it look like you are falling to the ground. So let's get started. Now, as you're learning to do a simple fall, we're going to start with a rear sit fall. As you're learning to do this, you're going to need the help of a partner. So here's how you're going to start. You're going to face each other, just standing neutral. You're going to grab each other by the wrists. Okay, so I'm going to grab Dante's wrists. Dante is going to grab my wrist. Now, the person that is going to start doing the sit fall first is going to begin by taking a large step back and to the side. The bigger step you take, the easier this is going to be. Don't be lazy and just try and take a small step. Take a really big step back and to the side. Then I'm going to bend my right leg and lower myself to the ground. Now Dante is going to provide support and is going to slowly walk me down as I lower myself to the ground, and he's going to make it so I don't fall onto the ground. Don't let me fall yet. So I'm going to get here. Now once I get here, I'm going to reach to the ground with my left butt cheek and place that on the ground, and then I'm going to roll out onto the side of my back until my shoulders touch the ground. I'm not going to let my head touch the ground, just my shoulders. And then once my shoulders are touching the ground, now Dante is going to help me back up to my feet. Help me up. There we go. Okay, so a couple of important things that are going on here. So first of all, it really is essential that you have a partner there to help you back up. If you're spending an hour or two practicing falling, it's not the falling to the ground that's going to wear you out and make your muscles all sore and cramped. It's the getting back up again after falling down that is going to wear you out. Okay, so a few things. First of all, I'm picking a side. So I took a big step back into the side with my right foot, and that means I'm going to first make contact with the ground with my left glute muscle, my left butt cheek. I'm going to be reaching for the ground with that part of my body. As I make contact with the ground, I want to avoid making contact with my tailbone. I do not want to just sit down right onto my tailbone. That can be very painful and very dangerous. And then likewise, as I roll onto my back, I don't want to roll onto my spine, which is relatively unprotected. Rather, I've got some muscles running along the sides of my spine. I want to roll onto those big, large muscle masses, rolling up into my lat muscles onto my back. And again, I'm going to tuck my head so that my head doesn't make contact with the ground. Now, most importantly, Dante is also holding my arms so that I don't reach down to the ground to make contact with my hands first. That's a very common thing that people instinctually want to do. Now, the reason for that is because instinctively, if you were to fall out of a tree and land on the ground, there are certain parts of your body that could get hurt. And some of those parts of your body are worse than others to get injured. So if I fall out of a tree and I break a wrist or I break an arm, that ultimately is not going to be a big problem for my survival. I'll still be able to survive that. I'll be able to walk and run and eat and defend myself if I'm in a fight with some giant animal that's attacking me. But if I fall onto the ground and I break my hip, well, that's going to severely limit my ability to survive on my own. I won't be able to walk on my own. I won't be able to defend myself on my own. So my instincts are designed to protect my hips and not worry so much about my elbow and my wrist or even my ankle. Same thing with my neck and my head. My body wants to protect those parts of my body, but doesn't care so much about the less important parts of the body. So if you panic while you are falling and give yourself over to your instincts are going to be just fine with sacrificing the health of your wrists and not in exchange for protecting your hips, your spine, your neck, and your head. But I don't want any part of your body to get injured or hurt, so we're going to make sure that we don't panic, that we don't give over to our instincts, that we maintain conscious control of our movements, and that way we can make sure that we don't injure our wrists. And for a rear sit fall, that means we keep our hands off the ground. So once again, let's go back to this exercise. Before you submit your video, you should perform this exercise with a partner several times to get the hang of it. So once again, I'm going to choose a side. I'm going to choose my right foot, so I'm going to step back, big step back and to the side. I'm going to lower myself onto this hip. I have not made contact with the ground yet. Now I'm reaching with my left butt cheek, so the opposite butt cheek. I roll onto the side of my back, make contact with my shoulders, not my head, and that is the end of the fall. Now Dante is going to help me up. And then, if you want, you can do this with your partner. Your partner then takes a step back and to the side, lowers himself to the ground. You can take a bigger step back than that. Really big. There we go. And I lower my partner down to the side. There we go. Yep. Go down, go down. My partner maintains the control, but I help them do this. Then, reaches to touch the ground with their opposite butt cheek, rolls out onto the side of their back, makes contact with their shoulders, not their head, and then I help them back up. Okay, so that's step one. Do that a few times until you're comfortable and make sure you can switch both feet. Step two, we're once again going to hold wrists, and I'm going to do the exact same movements, but Dante is not going to provide me support this time. Dante is there for two reasons. Number one, he's there to make sure that my hands don't touch the ground. And number two, he's there to help me back up when I'm done. So, he's got my arms, but he doesn't provide me any support. Instead, I just make that step, I lower myself to the ground, and now I reach with my opposite butt cheek, make contact with the ground, roll onto the side of my back, and once my shoulders, not my head, touches the ground, Dante is going to help me back up. And then I can do the same thing for him if you want both partners to practice. So Dante's going to step far back and off to the side. He's going to lower himself, make contact with his left butt cheek. When his shoulders touch the ground, I help him back up. So that's step two. Do that a few times, making sure that you can do it on both feet. And now finally, step three. This time we're not going to grab wrists. So Dante, if you could back up just a little bit, please. Thank you. We're not going to grab wrists. We're just going to reach. And Dante is doing this just as a reminder that I am not going to touch the ground. I'm just going to keep my hands out reaching. I'm going to step back. He's going to still reach. I make contact with the ground, roll back. Then once my shoulders hit the ground, then he can help me back up to my feet. So that is step three. And again, do that a few times with your partner, back and forth, making sure that you can fall to the ground in a controlled fashion. Now really, take your time with these exercises. There's no rush. Make sure that you can fall comfortably and effectively in slow motion, taking it step by step like this. And then, as you get more comfortable, you can speed it up. So now here's the last step. If I'm just going to fall by myself without my partner now, doing a rear sit fall, I don't have somebody in front of me to reach forward. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to pretend that I need to tie my shoes. So as I fall to the ground, to keep my hands off the ground, I'm going to be reaching for my left shoe. So I take a big step back and to the side. I lower myself to the ground and I reach for my left shoe. This helps me keep my hands off the ground as I maintain control. Then I reach for the ground with my left butt cheek, make contact, roll out onto the ground on the side of my back, and then when my shoulders touch, I'm done. Now, there's a couple things going on here. So, obviously I've already mentioned to tuck the head to make sure that you don't whack the back of your head onto the ground. Second thing is, as you do these movements, as you step back and lower yourself to the ground, you're putting a great deal of tension into the muscles right here in your hip and inner leg. And those muscles are very, very tense as you're controlling yourself right now. And then as you roll back, you're going to have a tendency to want to bring this leg up into the air like you're a dead beetle or something. And this is generally not a very natural looking thing to do. This does not look like I actually fell. It looks like something else. It's really weird. So, as I fall down, I want to make sure that I relax these muscles and extend that leg and lay out onto the ground like this. So that's one thing. I'll show you what that looks like. So, I take my step back and fall, and then I straighten out that leg as I make contact with the ground. Now, there's one last thing that you can do if you want. To make the fall a little bit more spectacular and show off the impact of it a little bit, you can make a nap sound. And by the way, this is the first time we've introduced the word nap, spelled K-N-A-P. A nap is a sound that actors will make when performing stage combat to simulate the sound of a blow. So if I want to accentuate the sound of me hitting the ground, I can make a nap by simply taking my palms and slapping them lightly against the ground, like this. Now if I do that, I want to make sure that I'm not jamming my elbows into the ground. I don't want to whack my funny bones right there into the ground because that will really hurt. So I just lightly tap the ground with my hands, and then I can lean back and I can even make contact with my head. Now if you really want to make this spectacular for film or theater, you can put some talcum powder, some baby powder or some flour or cornstarch or something onto your hands or onto the ground so that when you make that nap sound, there's a little bit of a puff of dust that comes up to visually accentuate the fall as well. Okay, but so putting all that together, here is an example of the rear sit fall at something close to performance speed. There we go. I even kicked my foot up a little too high. Let me try that again, see if I can do that without kicking my right foot up. Here we go. There, just like that. So that is a rear sit fall. Now I'm going to show you a second type of fall right now, and you actually can do this without a partner, and it operates on the same basic principle. The idea that I'm going to use my legs to get my body as close to the ground as possible in a controlled fashion before making contact with the ground. So I'm not just dropping to the ground, I'm lowering my body as close to the ground as possible before making contact with it. So this is going to be a front fall. And it's going to start the same way by taking a big step. But instead of taking a big step back, I'm going to take a big step forward. Now here I'm taking a step now with my left foot. And I'm going to use this leg to lower myself onto this left knee. Now I've gotten nice and close to the ground in a very controlled fashion. Now, the next part of my body that is going to touch the ground is going to be my hands. But because I've lowered myself to the ground and I'm in control, I'm not giving myself over to my instincts, and I'm fairly certain that I'm not going to damage or injure my wrists. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make contact with the ground, but I am going to focus on sliding my hands forward. I'm not going to use my hands as hard shock absorbers. I'm not going to slam my hands into the ground like that. That would be very, very painful. Instead, I'm going to slide forward onto the ground. So I reach down and I slide forward and lower myself. Now, as I do this, I'm going to be twisting my body. I'm going to come back so you can see me a little bit better. I'm going to be twisting my body so that I make contact with the ground on large muscle masses. So that means I'm going to make contact on the inside of this leg, my left leg that I step forward with, and the outside of my right leg. That's my rear leg right there. And I slide out and I make contact with the ground with these large muscle masses. I'm not slamming the fronts or even the sides of my knee into the ground. I'm focusing on touching the ground with these muscles to pad my way and not damage any joints. And then it looks, so the whole thing should look like this. Step forward and down, lower myself, make contact, slide, twist, and then bring myself down to the ground. So that's a front fall. You can practice that a few times and then see if you can speed it up. So here it is from the side, front fall. Here. You don't want to do a front fall on carpet or cement. You generally want to do this on a smooth surface, like a stage floor. So if you don't have access to a smooth surface, you might want to skip this fall. So for this assignment, what I would like you to do is pick one of those two falls, either a rear sit fall or a front fall, and practice it, and show it to me. And I want to make sure that it's very safe, that you're not slamming your hands or slamming your arms into the ground, that you're lowering yourself, and that you're making contact with the ground with large muscle masses. So practice one of these falls and perform a video, please, of you demonstrating one of these falls. Thank you very much.